Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
The following is a class given by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj on May 30th, 2005 in New Dwaraka. The class begins with a reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 4, Verse 19.
Translation with repetition: it is better to execute one's own occupational duty than to criticize others. Elevated transcendentalists may sometimes forgo the rules and regulations of the Vedas, since they do not need to follow them. Just as the demigods travel in space, whereas ordinary men travel on the surface of the earth. Report by Srila Prabhupada. The behavior of the most elevated transcendentalists and that of the most fallen, conditioned soul appears to be the same. The elevated transcendentalist can surpass all the regulations of the Vedas, just as the demigods traveling in space surpass all the jungles and rocks on the surface of the globe. Although a common man who has no such ability to travel in space has to face all those impediments. Although the most dear Lord Shiva appears not to observe all the rules and regulations of the Vedas, he is not affected by such disobedience. But a common man who wants to imitate Lord Shiva is mistaken. A common man must observe all the rules and regulations of the Vedas, which a person who is in the transcendental position does not need to observe. Daksha found fault with Lord Shiva for not observing all the strict rules and regulations of the Swami asserted that he had no need to observe such rules. It is said that for one who is powerful like the sun or the fire, there is no consideration of purity or impurity. The sunshine can sterilize an impure place, whereas if someone else were to pass such a place, he would be affected. One should not try to imitate Lord Shiva. Rather, one should strictly follow one's prescribed occupational duties. One should never vilify a great personality like Lord Shiva. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta Swami translation purport to the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 4th chapter, 19th verse, spoken in Christabdo 5, 2005, 5th month, 30th day, 519th day of Gauranga Mahaprabhu era. 108th year of Prabhupada era. So Prabhupada 108 ki?
Jai.
This very heavy part of the Bhagavatam, because Sati is exposed to Vaishnava aparadha. That's the most painful, despicable, poison to be exposed to. It affected her so grievously that she decided to emulate herself in yogic fire and discard the body which was connected to a Vaishnava aparadha, namely her father. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises us to avoid Vaishnava aparadha. Vaishnava aparadha matal hati upare ba chinde tar sukhi Jayapataka. An elephant. If the elephant gets let loose in a maddened condition in someone's nice garden, the elephant can create havoc with the garden. Nicely nurtured plants, trees, flowers can be crushed and can be ripped out from the ground by the rampaging elephant. Upare bachinde tar sukhi Jayapataka. So the example is given that the root of a devotional creeper, the creeper is being pulled out from the ground. Now if you take a plant and pull it out from the ground, do the leaves immediately fall off from the plant? Do they immediately turn brown? It may take a few days. to completely dry up. But because the root is pulled out from the ground, the nourishment has stopped. So this example is given that in our devotional people, when we engage, exposed to severe Vaishnava aparat, it's like pulling the creeper out from the root. We don't get any more nourishment. And then we systematically start to dry up. We lose the taste for chanting. We lose the taste for deity worship. We lose the taste for reading. We lose the taste for preaching. We lose the taste for book distribution. What could be worse? We lose our devotional service ultimately. And we just like that dried out, trampled plant which the elephant has pulled out from the root and trampled on, we become a dry crisp, devoid of devotional enthusiasm. Then it's easy to go in chronic offense. Going on offending and offending and offending to try to substantiate why I'm not feeling the spiritual happiness it must be. We just start to become more and more critical until finally we completely leave devotional service altogether. So this, what could be worse? This is why Sati is saying this is like taking a poison. Better to, when you take poison, the best cure is to vomit it out. Even in some of the liquids in the bathroom, it says that by some reason, or somehow you swallow this, vomit it out. So we take a poison, we want to bring it out. So we want to take out all the poison from us. She had her way of doing it. But prevention is also said to be the best cure. And we should avoid the Vaishnava aparat. So it says, better to engage in ourselves in our occupational duty than criticize others. We do a devotional service. We stay engaged, always in serving and preaching, and we don't have time to hear the criticisms of others or to speak negatively about others. Sometimes we're put in a situation by our service, like a spiritual master, or maybe a temple manager, where we have to oversee people in their spiritual life. We have to find out defects sometimes in order to take remedial action. For that reason, some very great devotees avoided taking disciples. They didn't want to get into that type of fault-finding and correction. Some of the Brajavasi associates of Lord Chaitanya, they just like Narottam Das Thakur, the Gokarnath Moshe, he took a vow not to take any disciples. Somehow Narottam made him break his vow. It's an exception. It's not clear why each individual made that decision, but sometimes we hear such reasons, maybe one of the reasons that the souls, they don't want to get into that type of analysis of people's effects and defects. we try to see the good in others, like Lord Chaitanya advises, amanena manavena, Chaitanya sadahari. Offer respect to others, don't expect any respect for oneself. That's another way of avoiding offending. Try to see the good. Even more advice that if we have to give some constructive criticism, we should also see the good in others first. We should appreciate their good qualities and then give the constructive suggestions. It becomes, obviously Daksha is a chronic offender. That's why Shiva didn't even want to go to his function, advised his wife, don't go. And she went and immediately she was exposed to offenses against Shiva, who is Vaishnavanam Jata Sambhu, who is the great devotee, greatest devotee, Vaishnava. The 12th canto Bhagavatam says, amongst all Vaishnava, just like Shiva is the greatest, amongst all rivers like Ganga is the greatest, amongst all Shastras, the Bhagavatam is the greatest. So such an exalted Vaishnava is able to drink an ocean of poison and not be affected. Cannot be judged by ordinary calculations. Because Daksha is like, in India they have a kind of Brahman they're called smartas. They're very much into the rules and regulations. Any small defect in someone's practice or rules and regulations they want to criticize. Now, of course, things have degraded so much that even the smartest don't follow very strictly, but few of them are still left that follow. But the criticism may go on amongst those who follow, or try to follow, or think they follow. So it seems that Daksha is that type of niyamagraha, very much attached to the rules and regulations. So he's finding out some faults with Shiva, failing to see all his good qualities. Prabhupada advised at a certain time in ISKCON, the pujaris had become very critical about the book distributors, because they thought, well, the book distributors would sometimes not have as clean a cloth as had come off the street. There would be different, so there was this kind of condescending attitude from the pujaris to the book distributors, because they were not necessarily asuchi. So then Srila Prabhupada took steps to correct that everybody is doing the service of Krishna, and that the pujaris are there to decorate the deities, because the preachers, they have to go out and they have to be exposed to so many materialistic people. They're doing a great service for the Lord. So when they come back, they can see the beautiful forms of the Lord, and this will be purifying for their minds. But the pujaris shouldn't think that, because they're doing deity worship and they will be very clean, that those who are out on the street distributing books are lesser. But rather they're also, that's their deity worship, that's their transcendental devotional service. And they're cleaning their heart by distributing transcendental literature. So it's very easy, because our egos are always that we want to think ourselves special. And someone may think that their service is better than another's. And that's what can go to another extreme where they start to criticize the others, to make oneself feel more elite or more elevated, special. But then again, we're involving ourselves in this Vaishnava Aparat. We should do our devotional service, do whatever our prescribed duties are, and not be overly bothered about what other people, what they're doing. If it's our specific service, then okay, maybe we have a service to check on people, then it's the one exception. But otherwise, why should we be so much looking for other people's faults? We should look for our own faults. We should see the other devotees as better, try to see their good qualities, see what defects we have and how we can purify ourselves. Srila Prabhupada was so special because he would not stop glorifying Krishna, glorifying the Vaishnavas. He avoided commentaries about other Vaishnavas. Sometimes in extreme circumstances, when we were exposed to some criticism, then for our protection, he had to warn us that these are the dangers, these type of things you shouldn't be exposed to. But he practiced always glorifying Krishna. He was invited to join the court cases to fight over the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. But he said, I'd rather build the Mayapur project and do my own preaching than fight over the bricks of the birthplace. Lord Chaitanya, we know him as the most merciful. It's Pati Pavan. But he was very strict when it came to Vaishnava Aparat. When he saw Devananda Pandit, after he had offended Srivas, he publicly chastised him. But you committed a Vaishnava Aparat. You are not having any devotional quality. Your Bhagavatam classes are very dry, speculative. A pure devotee like Srivas comes to your class and you offend him. Publicly chastised. Very hard for Kal Pandits to accept. But the heaviest example that I can think of is Chapal Gopal. Chapal Gopal also he offended. It seemed like Srivas is the most offenseless person. He didn't offend anybody. He just tried to do his devotional service. He was promoting the Sankirtan movement by his providing his garden, the Srivas Angan. In spite of being such an offenseless, such a humble devotee, somehow he attracted offensive people. Maybe sometimes offensive people pick on such humble devotees. So Chapal Gopal, as you know, he painted goat's blood all over the door of Srivas Prabhu and put a tray with a goat's head that was the way they cut the head off for offering to Kali, and put the other quote-unquote prasad, Kali prasad, like intestines and other beautiful things there that we don't want to mention. On this plate. So then when Srivas opened up his door and found the door is completely painted with blood, then there's this tray in the front with all these horrible, unmentionable things, and the goat's head and everything, and some java flowers and puja implements of worshipping Devi. It was very disgusting. Then some other Brahmins were looking, he said, look at, now I'm worshipping Devi. And everyone knows he's a pure Vaishnava, he's a pure vegetarian, he doesn't offer goats in that. So, actually, who did this to you? Who made this man? Nobody took it serious. He was not implicated. This became like a bad joke. It didn't take off. So you had to bring the sanitary technicians and they cleaned up the place. But we know that Chapal Gopal got leprosy after 3 days for his aparat. In those days, the lepers were outcast from society. So from an active tantric Shakto priest enjoying life in whatever level of society he was in, now he was an outcast, a leper. So he lived inside of the Ganges, out from the city, and his fingers were rotting and decaying. There's something, according to Ayurveda, leprosy is a disease of the hairs of the body. The hairs don't go to the extremities, and therefore the circulation doesn't reach there, and therefore the body starts to rot. So it's a lack of circulation, and gradually the fingers rot and rot and rot. The arm until you're dead. So here he was, after some years, he was already partially decayed. Chapal Gopal saw Lord Chaitanya walking by, and he fell at Lord Chaitanya's feet. My dear Gauranga, Patit Pavan, please, you are the only one who can deliver me. Who else is there in the world who can deliver a fallen soul like me? You are Patit Pavan. Please, please deliver me. I am suffering so much. I want to be your devotee. Normally, Lord Chaitanya will deliver people. But this time, Lord Chaitanya became very stern, very forceful. He said, you have committed a Vaishnav aparad. You are a Vaishnav aparadi. You are going to go to hell. And you are going to be burning there. You're going to be suffering. How can I be saved? What can I do? The only way you can be saved, you must be forgiven by Srivas Thakur. I cannot forgive you because you have offended my devotee. Very unusual to hear such heavy hell and brimstone from Lord Chaitanya, the loving avatar, but because he is also the Lord, he doesn't forgive people for offenses made to Vaishnavas. We have to be forgiven from the Vaishnava. So then the associates who saw this, they said, now Chapal Gopal has changed your heart. You'll become a devotee. So they went to see Srivas and said, Srivas, please, you have to forgive Chapal Gopal, then he'll become a devotee. And Shiva said, how can I forgive someone? How can anybody offend me? I'm lower than a worm in stool. There's nobody lower than me. So how can anybody offend somebody who's lower than him? And like this he was going on and on, deprecating himself and humbling himself. And these devotees are like scratching their heads to look at Srivas. They weren't getting anywhere. You don't think you're a devotee. Okay, that's clear. But somehow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thinks you're a devotee. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu won't give his mercy to Chapal Gopal unless you forgive him. If you don't forgive him, he's going to be burning in hell. Do you want him to suffer because of you? No. I don't want anybody to suffer for me. No. Oh, no. I don't want him to suffer. What can I do then? Then you have to go and you have to say that you forgive him. Whatever it is. Whoever you are. Lower, whatever. Lord Chaitanya thinks that you're a devotee, and if you don't do that, he's not going to get the mercy. Okay, then I'll do it. I didn't think about it that way. They have to use reverse psychology. Then Lord Chaitanya, well, he comes later. But then Srivas Thakur, he goes with his devotees to the place where Chapal Gopal is destitute and a secluded place on some far side of the Ganges. When Chapal Gopal sees Srivas, he falls at his feet. Srivas Prabhu, I committed an aparad. Forgive me for my offense, please forgive me. And the devotees, come on Srivas, forgive him. So then he said, all right, so I pray to Krishna, if there's any offense that you committed to me, may you be forgiven. I don't know of any offense, but if there's any offense, if anybody thinks there's an offense, may you be forgiven from it. Then, suddenly Lord Chaitanya appeared. He picked up Chapal Gopal. So now you're a candidate for my mercy. You've been forgiven for the Vaishnava Aparad. And he embraced Chapal Gopal. And even though Chapal Gopal was missing fingers and I don't know how much of his body was removed, some parts were gone. Not only was the leprosy cured, he was restored. When I think that Vasudev the leper, Chapal Gopal the leper, Lord Chaitanya would give that kind of mercy to our dear brother Bhaktitirtha Maharaj and restore all his limbs and cure him. That would be the ideal thing. So that we could have him back and joining the kirtans. Very difficult to see some great preacher grounded. Even though even in his present situation he's still preaching in so many ways. Anyway, Chapal Gopal joined the Sankirtan movement. He became rectified, purified, forgiven. That's the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he had to get heavy with him. Otherwise he won't take it serious. He won't get forgiven for his Vaishnava aparad. some people seem to be totally oblivious to the dangers of Vaishnava Aparadha. With impune, they just go on offending and offending. It's like a hobby. Of course, there's the famous story of, although we don't have time to go into any details, but Ramchandra Puri, who was always offending, looking for the faults in everyone and simply offending them. So he was deprived of the mercy of his guru, deprived of the taste for devotional service. There are so many vivid examples in Chaitanya's pastimes. Even Pundarik Nityanidhi, when he was a bit critical about some of Jagannath's pujaris, even in the dream, Jagannath and Baladev came and were punching him. Who are you to criticize our devotees? His whole face got swollen up even after when he woke up, with all his cheeks were swollen. So, well, that's very special mercy, not everybody was punched by Jagannath. There was one pastime of Jagannath in Mayapur. One Muslim offended Jagannath Prasad. He was offered prasad and he took it, threw it. We don't eat this food offered to idols. People were shocked. He said, you shouldn't do things like that. This is holy prasad. The next day, the same Muslim came back with offerings of fruits and flowers to give to Jagannath. And he's asking, can I have prasad? The Pujari said, why? Yesterday you were offending. Now you're offering offerings. No, I'm converted. Last night I had this dream. And this white one, I don't know what his name is, but he was on my chest. He was punching me. And he was telling, I'm going to finish you. You offended my brother's prasadam. And the one with the yellow face, she was saying, get him, finish him. It was the one with the black face smiling. He saved me. He said, no, he didn't do so bad offense. Just spare him. I was so frightened. So, I want prasad now, please. I want prasad and he ate it. Jagannath Swami ki, Dev ki, Srimad Maharani ki. So we should be very careful about this Vaishnava Aparadha. Hearing it, Prabhupada always said, avoid hearing rumors. So, now internet, of course, someone mentioned that they suggested the Prabhupada, we can have telex in all the temples. Those days there was no fax, just telex. He said, no, then people be gossiping over the telex. Now internet. Email, yeah. So to be very careful to avoid the Vaishnava Aparadha, difficult in such a connected world. So Sati, bringing home how serious it is and how dangerous it is to hear Aparadha. She doesn't want to hear it anymore. So just one thing in this conclusion, also that how, like in the beginning sometimes in ISKCON, I think there was some Like people didn't understand the position of the devas, and actually they're great devotees, they're great Vaishnavas. We don't worship them as independent lords. We don't think they're equal to or independent of Krishna. But that doesn't mean we should offend them. Some translations of the second offense to holy name is to think that the names of the devas or devi are equal or independent to Vishnu. Some translations or some versions in some Quran also say, and to offend them, or also to offend them. So, I was told by Bhagavad Swami. So, who's that Indian pandit over there? You have many pandits here, they can research. We had to work in India, where in South India, in Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka. It's mainly Shiva, Durga, Ganesh, Kartikeya, the family, the deities are very prominent. So one has to be very careful not to respect them as Vaishnavas. Actually, we know from 4th canto Bhagavatam and the Prachetas pastime that Shiva gave his own Krishna mantra to the Prachetas. He says he loves the Krishna Bhaktas, and the Krishna Bhaktas love him. So there's no reason that we should feel inimical. Even Skanda is the general of the Devas. Ganesh wrote down all the Shastras, some of the Shastras for Vyasadeva, with his, what do you call that? Tusk. And anyway, Devi, of course, she's a great servant of the Lord. When we go into Mayapur or into Vrindavan, then we find that Devi and Shiva protect the Dhams. You need their blessings to get into the Dham, to get into the inner circle of the Dham. So it brings to home that they're very special. There's one form of Shiva in Mayapur called Hansa Bahan, where there was a class on Chaitanya Bhagavat by Sukadeva Goswami. He got so anxious to hear the classes on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he was going on his Nandi bull, was going too slow. When he got by Satyaloka from Kailash, he saw Lord Brahma say, "Can I borrow your swan? I'm in a hurry to get down to the class on Dwaraka. I'll come back and pick up Nandi later." So he borrows the lift. He gets here in LA, people borrow cars sometimes, so he borrows the swan and flies down to Navadvip. And there he flies into the Gaur Bhagavat class, and everyone sees Brahma's swan. They all stand up expecting to see Brahma, and on the back of the swan they see instead Lord Shiva. It was a big surprise. I said that deity of Shiva is hot, because anytime you start hearing Gaur Bhagavat, he's getting anxious to hear it, and the deity gets hot, and we keep the deity underwater. So there's many wonderful pastimes like that you learn to appreciate. But Shiva really is the greatest Vaishnava. And Daksha was really off and just finding faults with him. He's also a great powerful Lord. Can't judge him by normal yardsticks. So, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Do you like our ad-free videos? Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We publish new videos every day, and don't forget to like and share our channel.